I wish someone had warned me how fragile life can feel when you're drifting through it with no purpose. I was 27, staring at my phone screen for hours, numbing myself with endless scrolls, when I stumbled across Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. His words hit me like a freight train. When a man finds that it is his destiny to suffer, he will have to accept his suffering as his task, his single and unique task. That line didn't just resonate. It shattered the haze I'd been living in. I was drowning in my own meaningless routine, and Frankl's story of finding purpose in the darkest corners of a concentration camp forced me to confront a brutal truth. I was wasting my life, and I wasn't even suffering for anything worthwhile. Let me take you back to where it all started. I was working a dead-end job, clocking in and out like a zombie. My evenings were spent binge-watching shows or scrolling through social media, comparing my life to strangers who seemed to have it all together. I wasn't just bored. I was empty. I'd wake up every morning with this gnawing feeling in my chest, like I was missing something vital, but I couldn't name it. My friends noticed it too. One night at a bar, my best friend Sarah looked at me and said, "You're here, but you're not here." That stung. I'd become a ghost in my own life, present, but not living. I'd lost 15 pounds from stress eating, my sleep was a mess, and I hadn't picked up a book in years. I was 27, but I felt like I was running out of time. Then came Man's Search for Meaning. I wasn't looking for it. It found me. I was at a used bookstore, killing time, when the worn spine caught my eye. I bought it on a whim, not expecting much. But as I read Frankl's account of surviving the Holocaust, of finding meaning in the face of unimaginable horror, something inside me cracked open. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." That hit me hard. I realized I was choosing to be miserable. I was choosing to let my life slip through my fingers, blaming my job, my routine, the world, everything but myself. My lowest point came a few months before I read the book. I'd been dumped by my girlfriend of 3 years, not because we fought, but because she said I was emotionally unavailable. I didn't even argue. I knew she was right. I'd stopped caring about my dreams, my relationships, even myself. I was spending 10 hours a day on my phone, according to my screen time report, and it was eating me alive. I'd scroll through Instagram, seeing people travel, build businesses, live vibrant lives, and I'd feel this toxic mix of envy and despair. I wasn't depressed in a clinical sense, but I was close, teetering on the edge of a void I couldn't name. Frankl's words gave that void a name, a lack of meaning. He didn't just survive the camps. He found a reason to keep going, even when hope was a faint flicker. I wasn't in a camp, but I was trapped in my own head, and I needed to find my own reason. I started journaling that night, something I hadn't done since high school. I wrote down every moment I could remember where I felt alive, really alive. There weren't many. A hiking trip with my dad when I was 19, a late-night conversation with a stranger on a train. The time I finished a short story and felt proud, even if no one else read it. Those moments were rare, but they were clues. Frankl talked about how meaning isn't something you find lying around. It's something you create. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose, he wrote. I realized I'd been waiting for life to hand me a purpose, like a gift-wrapped package, but it doesn't work that way. I had to build it. The shift wasn't instant. I didn't wake up the next day with a grand epiphany, but I started small. I cut my screen time to 6 hours a day, not perfect, but better. I picked up a sketchbook, something I used to love as a kid, and started drawing again, even though my sketches were terrible. I signed up for a 5K run, despite hating exercise, because I wanted to feel my body move, to feel alive. Each step felt like a rebellion against the version of me that was okay with wasting away. Frankl's story taught me that meaning isn't always found in big moments. It's in the small choices, the ones you make when no one's watching. I wasn't curing cancer or climbing Everest, but I was clawing my way out of my own darkness, and that was enough to start. So, there I was, staring at the wreckage of my life, armed with nothing but a dog-eared copy of Man's Search for Meaning and a flicker of hope that I could turn things around. Viktor Frankl's words kept echoing in my head. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. That became my lifeline. I wasn't in a concentration camp, but I was fighting my own battle against apathy and despair. I needed a why, a reason to get out of bed that wasn't just paying bills or chasing likes on social media. But how do you find meaning when you've been numb for so long? I didn't have all the answers, but I figured out a path that worked for me, and I'm going to break it down for you step by step. These aren't vague platitudes. They're the exact moves I made to rebuild my life, and they're rooted in what Frankl taught me about creating purpose from the ground up. Step 1. I had to face the void head on. I stopped running from the emptiness and started asking hard questions. What did I care about? Not what I was supposed to care about, but what actually lit a spark in me. I sat down with a notebook and wrote out everything I'd ever loved doing, even if it felt silly. Playing guitar badly in my teens, cooking for my family. That one time I volunteered at a dog shelter and felt useful. Frankl said, "The meaning of life differs from man to man, from day to day, and from hour to hour." That gave me permission to stop chasing some universal purpose and focus on what mattered to me. I realized I loved creating, whether it was a drawing, a meal, or a moment that made someone smile. So, I started small. I cooked a new recipe every week, even if it was just for myself. It wasn't world-changing, but it was a start. Step 2, I cut the noise. My phone was a black hole, sucking up 10 hours of my day. I downloaded an app called Freedom to block social media after 7 p.m. It wasn't easy. My brain craved the dopamine hit of notifications, but I replaced scrolling with reading. I didn't just reread Frankl's book. I dove into stories of people who'd overcome their own struggles, memoirs, biographies, anything that reminded me I wasn't alone. I also set a hard rule: no phone in the bedroom. I bought a cheap alarm clock instead. Within a month, my screen time dropped to 4 hours a day, and I was sleeping better. I could think again. Frankl's idea of choosing your attitude helped here. I chose to see the discomfort of less screen time as proof I was taking control, not as deprivation. Step 3. I started saying yes to things that scared me. Frankl's survival in the camps came down to choosing hope over despair, even when it felt impossible. I wasn't facing anything close to that, but I was terrified of failing, of looking stupid. So I signed up for a local art class, despite being the worst artist in the room. I showed up, hands shaking, and drew lopsided portraits. But every sketch, every mistake, made me feel alive. I also joined a running group, even though I could barely jog a mile without gasping. By the end of 3 months, I ran that 5K I mentioned earlier, crossing the finish line in 34 minutes. Not fast, but I did it. Those small wins stacked up, proving I could change. Step 4. I built rituals around meaning. Frankl talked about finding purpose in suffering, but I realized you could find it in joy too. I started a gratitude journal, not some cheesy self-help gimmick, but a raw, honest list of things that made my day better. A good cup of coffee, a stranger's smile, finishing a sketch. I wrote 3 things every night, no matter how small. Over time, I noticed a shift. I was seeking out moments of meaning instead of waiting for them. I also set aside 1 hour a week to volunteer at that dog shelter again. Walking those dogs, seeing their goofy excitement, gave me a purpose I couldn't find in a screen. The results? They were undeniable. In 6 months, I went from 10 hours of screen time a day to under 3. I read 12 books that year, including Man's Search for Meaning twice. I lost another 10 pounds, not because I was dieting, but because I was moving, creating, living. My relationships got better too. Sarah, my friend from the bar, noticed it first. She said I was back, not just physically present, but engaged, curious, alive. I even started a side hustle, selling a few of my sketches online for $200 total. Not much, but it felt like a fortune because it came from something I loved. Frankl's wisdom gave me a framework. Meaning isn't found in comfort or distraction. It's in the choices you make, the risks you take, and the moments you decide to show up for. I'm not going to lie to you and say my life is perfect now. It's not. I still have days where I slip back into old habits, where the pull of my phone or the weight of doubt creeps in. But here's the difference. I know I have a choice. Viktor Frankl's words are seared into my soul. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space, that tiny fleeting moment where you decide who you're going to be, is everything. I used to let life happen to me, let the monotony and the noise dictate my days. But after reading Man's Search for Meaning, I realized that even in my small, messy life, I could choose to create something meaningful. And you can too. Right now. Today. You don't need to wait for a crisis to wake up. You don't need to hit rock bottom like I almost did. Frankl survived the unimaginable by finding purpose in the smallest acts, imagining his wife's face, helping a fellow prisoner, holding on to the hope of teaching again. If he could do that in a concentration camp, you and I have no excuse. Start where you are. Maybe it's cutting your screen time by an hour and picking up a book that's been gathering dust. Maybe it's signing up for that class you're scared to fail at, or calling someone you've drifted away from. I started with a notebook and a few shaky sketches, and it led me to a life I didn't think was possible. In the last year, I've run 2 more 5Ks, sold $1,500 worth of artwork, and rebuilt friendships I thought were gone. Those aren't just wins. They're proof that meaning is built, not found. Here's my challenge to you. Take one step today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Grab a pen and write down one thing that makes you feel alive, even if it's buried under years of doubt. Then do something about it. Cook that dish, take that walk, sign up for that race. Sign. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. Frankl didn't survive by chasing perfection. He survived by choosing purpose, moment by moment. You've got that same power. I'm living proof it works, and I want you to feel what I feel now. The rush of knowing your life matters, not because it's flashy or viral, but because it's yours. If this story hit you, if you're ready to stop drifting and start building, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. I'm sharing more stories like this, real, raw, and packed with ways to take control of your life. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's one thing you're going to do today to find your why? How many hours are you spending on your phone right now? And what's one small change you're ready to make? Let's start this journey together. You don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to wait for permission. Your life is waiting for you to show up. So go. Choose your response. Create your meaning right now.